Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Tarazona. I am the Virtual Studies Coordinator at UniPID. Welcome to the launch webinar of our project, Virtual Studies for Global Sustainable Development in Southern African Collaboration, GLOBUS. This initiative has been recently funded by the Team Finland Knowledge TFK program and was developed as a result of a long-term collaboration between Finnish and Southern African institutions affiliated with UniPID and SANORD as coordinating networks. Today, we warmly welcome you to learn not only about GLOBUS as a project, its objectives, and what it means for our communities, but we also want to share with you the opportunity to become familiar with UniPID, SANORD, but also with COIL methodology as a learning approach that fosters internationalization and intercultural competence. To guide our session, we have prepared the following agenda. So following the opening remarks, we will be also welcoming both coordinating networks, UniPID and SANORD, to then start the presentation of the GLOBUS project. After that, we will have the introduction to the collaborative online international learning COIL methodology by the Durban University of Technology. And towards the end of the session, we will also make a short time also available for your questions or comments to the speakers. And finally, we will have two speakers also in charge of the closing remarks, representing both partners in Finland and Southern Africa. Finally, just some housekeeping rules to keep in mind. Please note that this event is recorded for later publication on UniPID's communication channels. And there is a dedicated Q&A session towards the end of the event, as you saw in the program. But we invite you to start sharing your comments and questions here in the Q&A section of the meeting. And then we will be addressing them towards the end of the event, or we will be answering also via chat. So, continue with our program. I am pleased to welcome Kaisa Kurki, who will be introducing UniPID as one of our coordinating networks. Kaisa is the current director of UniPID. Previously, she was the head of study and academics affairs at the University of Jyväskylä, manager for international affairs at Tampere University, and director of international education services at the University of Tampere. With more of 20 years of experience in international education and higher education, Kaisa has been the director of the network currently hosted by the University of Eastern Finland since 2023. Her research interests center around higher education internationalization, institutional autonomy, and Global North, Global South partnerships. Welcome, Kaisa.
Many thanks, Anna. So let me now introduce you to UniPID shortly. So UniPID is a Finnish University Partnership for International Development, and we recently also confirmed the Finnish and Swedish versions of the network's name, Yliopistojen globaalin kehityksen verkosto, Universitetsnätverket för global utveckling. And I'm pleased to present you the recently published strategy for the University Network 2026-2030. So UniPID, established in 2002 by Finnish university rectors to enhance universities' global responsibility activities, is an established network and has been in existence for more than 20 years. Since its beginning, its focus has been on global responsibility, and also according to its current mission, the aim of UniPID is to strengthen the capacity of member universities to enhance global responsibility and global South perspectives in their education, research, and societal engagement. We promote equitable and inclusive global partnerships that advance sustainable development. UniPID has 10 member institutions ranging from Aalto, University of Helsinki, University of Oulu, Tampere University, University of Lapland, University of Turku, University of Eastern Finland, the current host institution of the UniPID coordination, Åbo Academy, and lastly but not least, Hanken, the latest member to join the network. For our member institutions, we envision that by 2030, through collaborative partnerships with actors in the Global South, our member universities have integrated global sustainable development into the 3 interconnected pillars of higher education, namely education, research, and societal engagement. And within education, we envision that the universities have co-design, co-create, and co-implementation of inclusive and innovative high-quality education, supporting expertise in sustainable development with Global South partners and networks, offering opportunities for shared learning. In terms of research, we envision that the member universities are engaged in high quality, responsible, ethical, and equitable research collaboration and co-learning with Global South stakeholders based on shared knowledge co-creation priorities, and also that the researchers from Global South and Global North at different career stages receive training and support for Global South collaborations. In terms of societal engagement, we would like universities to collaborate with multiple stakeholders to contribute to policy dialogues that advocate for and include Global South perspectives and academic freedom. Universities are active in contributing to evidence-informed decision-making, both on a local and global level. As for strategic priorities, we prioritize member university engagement, promote responsible partnerships, and aim for knowledge-based impact.
Thank you so much, Kaisa. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Tasmira Singh, who will introduce SANORD as the other coordinating network for this project. Dr. Singh is Director of International Relations at the University of Western Cape and Director of the Southern African Nordic Centre, SANORD. Prior to her appointment at UWC, she was the Director of Strategic Initiatives and Partnerships at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology, CPUT. Dr. Singh was also employed for 21 years at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Durban. In addition, Dr. Singh serves as the Deputy President for the International Education Association of South Africa, IEASA. Welcome, Dr. Singh.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, wonderful. I just have I think 4 minutes, so I will quickly go through the presentation and just talk a bit about SANORD, which stands for the South African Centre, which is made up of partners from Southern Africa, South Africa, Southern Africa, and the Nordic region. And so very similar to UniPID, SANORD is committed to advancing strategic multilateral academic collaboration between institutions in South Africa and the Nordic regions as we seek to address local and global challenges around innovation and development. So some of the key concepts and values, we are based on mutuality. We think about strategic development, sustained engagement, and leadership development. I hope you can see, but the green and the red is just a snapshot of the member institutions as they represented on the globe. In terms of our Southern African universities, we have South Africa, we have Malawi, we have Zambia, Eswatini, Mozambique, Botswana, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. in terms of our Nordic institutions, we have Sweden, Finland, Norway, Iceland, and Denmark. And of course, at SANORD, we recognize the imperative to increase the member institutions. Just very briefly, in terms of SANORD activities and engagement throughout the year, we have our 4 board meetings. We have our SANORD contact persons meetings. We have an annual conference, which I will explain towards the end. We have, throughout the year, we have webinars, we have SANORD working groups, we have special interest groups, as well as the 3-minute thesis competition. In terms of the funding opportunities, we have implemented seed funding for research collaboration that's directly linked to research projects. We've got the Brian O'Connell Scholarship Program, which allows for the mobility of master's students. And we have conference delegate support. For example, if your abstract is accepted, you then can apply to the office for support. And as I mentioned, this year the annual conference will be hosted by UNAM in Namibia, and abstracts are still open with the concluding date of the 10th of April. Just very briefly, in terms of our board members for the period January 2026 to December 2027, our chair is from the University of England in Norway, and our vice chair is from the University of the Western Cape. And then these are the rest. So in total, we have 10 SANORD board members. And I thank you.
Thank you so much, both Kaisa and Dr. Singh. Now, following our program, I would like to be back with Kaisa, who will now introduce us to the GLOBUS project, its objectives, expected outcomes, and the different ways how you can also get involved with this project. Kaisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Anna. So let me now tell you a little bit more about this project, as already introduced by Anna, a collaboration between 2 networks and its partner institutions, funded by the Team Finland Knowledge program, which is funded by the Finnish Ministry for Foreign Affairs and administered by the Finnish National Agency for Education, EDUFI. And as highlighted by Anna, GLOBUS is the acronym or the short name we use for this project. So here you can see the partnering institutions on this slide. So all partnering institutions are members of SANORD, highlighted with the green, so all of them. But then also we have a circle around the Finnish member institutions that are also members of UniPID. So all partnering institutions members of either both networks, the Finnish partners, and then the Southern African partners, University of Western Cape, Stellenbosch University, Durban University of Technology from South Africa, and University of Namibia from Namibia, all members of SANORD. So then a little bit about the objectives of this project and the activities with which we aim to fulfill the objectives. And indeed, increased collaboration between the Southern African and Finnish partners and between the university networks that have already been collaborating for a relatively long time. Increased collaboration is at the core of this project. And indeed, within the project, we aim at co-developing joint virtual studies based on the collaborative international online learning methodology. So also addressing one of the visions within UniPID strategy on co-creating and co-implementing education, high quality education, addressing also the needs, shared priorities at both both ends. This is also an activity that is well aligned with UniPID's past and ongoing activities. So since 2008, UniPID has been active in offering virtual studies for all of its member institutions. And for several years now, we've done so in collaboration with our Global South partners. So within this project, we are both fulfilling the strategy, but then also increasing collaboration with our sister network, SANORD. And then further, with regard to objectives, we aim at enhanced capacity and understanding of the interconnected nature of global and local sustainable development. And this is something we are addressing for both the staff and the students participating in this project. So with regard to activities, in order to reach these goals, we are embedding a professional development component on COIL within this project, and this webinar is basically the starting point of this professional development component, introducing to this methodology by colleagues at Durban University of Technology. We have also embedded staff and trainee mobility for co-developing collaborative teaching in this project. So we are able to fund teaching staff mobility from the Southern partners to the Finnish partnering institutions, and also include trainee mobility to support the actual implementation of these co-designed modules. In total, we are aiming at offering 6 virtual courses with the embedded COIL modules. And then further after the implementation, obviously we'll be, and throughout the project, taking various dissemination activities and also creating plans for scaling up these activities further in South-South collaboration, and also to support the historically disadvantaged institutions. Then a couple of words about the planned courses. So we will be focusing on methodologies in the first set of 2 courses, so practical approaches to doing research with hard-to-reach communities, which is a joint collaboration between Tampere University and Stellenbosch University, and with a tentative schedule of taking place during the autumn 2026. Theories and methods of social, scientific, environmental research is planned jointly by the University of Eastern Finland and the University of Western Cape, by colleagues collaborating in this topic and in the process of finding joint topics for a joint module embedded into this course during the spring 2027. Colleagues from the University of Turku and the University of Namibia are collaborating on the topic Geography and Development, and aim at conducting a joint module during the spring 2027. So this is the first set of courses planned. And then the next set of courses that are planned to be offered are collaborative effort of the University of Oulu and the University of Namibia colleagues. The first one on global education development, which has been a past UniPID course already for 2 consecutive sets of 3 years, and now in this COIL collaboration mode with the University of Namibia to be offered again in spring 2027. And also colleagues from both the same universities, University of Oulu and University of Namibia, are collaborating in offering a jointly taught module on environmental education, a course to be offered either during the spring or autumn of 2027. And then finally, we have a course yet to be further defined. There are already tentative ideas for a topic. This is still pending further planning by University of Eastern Finland and Durban University of Technology colleagues, for a course to be offered as the last one of this series of COIL modules in autumn 2027. With regard to dissemination and impact, we have basically already started with an event that took place during the Science Forum South Africa in Pretoria in November 25 this should be. So co-creating virtual teaching for human capital development. We were able to have a session with the former SANORD director Umesh Baba, Dr. Donald Skinner from Stellenbosch University, and Dr. Maria Tinda from the University of Namibia as our panelists discussing how virtual teaching can increase human capital development with active audience participation also during the Science Forum in Pretoria last November. And next, after this webinar, we are already planning the next event that will be taking place at the Spring Forum for Higher Education International Affairs in Kotka in Finland, 19th to 20th of May. Okay, here the years are now. So this will be happening in 2026, developing COIL project for students and staff virtual interaction. And we will be looking at how to navigate systemic, institutional and contextual barriers for co-teaching and co-learning. So looking at these aspects of COIL implementation. Also plans to be present at the next SANORD conference at UNAM in September, and then UEF to be hosting the next SANORD after this year's SANORD conference. There are also other opportunities, so there are currently plans for further networking among South African and Finnish higher education institutions that have been also promoted by the Team Finland Knowledge Councillor based in Pretoria at the Finnish Embassy. And then we also have a relatively recently established new institute, Finnish Southern Africa Cooperation Institute, STAI, also with an opportunity to further discuss the results of this ongoing project.
Thank you so much, Kaisa. Okay, so after this round of introductions to both the project and the coordinating networks, let us please now welcome Mineng Le and Mandisa from the Durban University of Technology, who will be introducing the collaborative online international learning COIL methodology and explain its relevance for GLOBUS in strengthening collaboration between Finnish and Southern African universities. Before giving the floor to our speakers, please allow me to introduce them. First, we have Mrs. Minengle Pamela Matthews, is a lecturer in dental technology and COIL coordinator at the Durban University of Technology. Her work focuses on advancing internationalization in higher education through digitally mediated collaboration and innovative teaching practices. She supports the development of COIL initiatives that foster intercultural learning and global classroom partnerships. Her scholarly interests include student success, curriculum development, and the alignment of higher education programs with professional regulatory requirements. Next, we have Mrs. Mandisa Kamwendo, who is the COIL coordinator at the Durban University of Technology in Durban, South Africa. She holds a Master's of Business Administration and works to support collaborative online international learning initiatives that connect students and academics across borders, creating meaningful global learning experiences. She is passionate about international collaboration and inclusive education, and she also enjoys helping academics design virtual exchanges that broaden perspectives and prepare students for an interconnected world. Welcome, Pam and Mandisa. Now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Minenhle. Myself and my colleague, Mandisa, will be introducing COIL as an innovative and inclusive approach to global academic collaboration. And then thereafter, we'll briefly outline the upcoming professional development for COIL that we will be facilitating within the GLOBUS partnership. Earlier on, we were struggling with the Wi-Fi, so we will need to switch off our camera during our presentation, so we do apologize for that. So I'm going to give a moment to Mandisa to greet everyone.
Afternoon, colleagues. My name is Mandisa Kamendo, as Anna has mentioned, and I'm a COIL coordinator at DUT. Thank you, Pam.
Okay, thank you, Mandisa. I'm going to share a presentation. I just want to check if the presentation is visible.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. So as a start, I would like to give a background to the DUT journey to comprehensive internationalization. The internationalization at DUT is directed through the International Education and Partnerships Directorate, which is under the leadership of Dr. Samuels. He has passionately driven the Directorate for at DUT continues to be impactful within the DUT community as well as the global community at large. And just to give a context to the impact of the internationalization journey at DUT, I will share some of the accolades that we have received and achieved thus far. In 2019, DUT won a competitive bid from the Association of Commonwealth Universities to serve as consultants on a COIL and international virtual engagement. This led to the launch of a toolkit for international virtual engagement and COIL in 22, which is available to the Association of Commonwealth Universities, 600 members. In 2020, the International Education Partnership Directorate received the DUT Vice Chancellor's Award for Excellence in Networking the University through COIL. In 2021, the university received the Association of International Education Administrators Award for Innovation and Excellence in Internationalization. This was notably the first time a university outside the US or Europe had won this award. DUT is also one of the 8 universities that are part of the Virtual Exchange Consortium, which organizes the annual Virtual Exchange Conference that aims to advance virtual exchange pedagogy, research, and professional development in higher education. 10 to 15 years ago, DUT's internationalization efforts centered on academic mobility for a small percentage of our students and staff. And this was the norm in most higher education institutions around the world. Recognizing that mobility in Africa was under 1%, the university shifted its focus from exclusive to inclusive internationalization to benefit the remaining 99% of its community. The definition that you see on the screen is what guided the start of internationalization at DUT, and it reads as follows. The intentional process, yes?
Sorry to interrupt you, but are you changing the slides? Because we are still in the...
No,
oh, okay,
I haven't changed the slides yet.
Okay,
yes.
Just to make sure.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. So the definition reads as follows. The intentional process of integrating an international, intercultural, or global dimension into the purpose, functions, and delivery of a post-secondary education in order to enhance the quality of education and research for all students and staff and to make a meaningful contribution to society. Since then, the Durban University of Technology has pivoted to a more inclusive definition of internationalization that addresses some of the challenges within the global south. With that said, we do believe that no matter where you come from in the world, everyone can still draw on DUT's perspective on internationalization, as it highlights the creation of knowledge relevant to the progression of societies. So I'm just going to read our current perspective of internationalization. Internationalization of higher education in South Africa must be an intentional, critical, and comparative process of the study of the world and its complexities through an interrogation of past and present inequalities and injustices, with the aim to make the world a better place for all. Internationalization must place South Africa and Africa at the center of teaching, learning, and research, and integrate critical, anti-racist, and anti-hegemonic learning about the world from diverse global perspectives in order to enhance the quality of education and create knowledge that is relevant to the functioning and progress of societies in South Africa and the world. So as I've said, this definition centers the progression of societies. This perspective aligns to the DUT's Envision 2030 strategy, which is intentionally geared towards contributing positively to society. The strategy aims to produce world-ready graduates capable of engaging in a globalized society and contributing to a better world. The Envision 2030 strategy, which is an institution-wide strategy, includes 4 perspectives that are stacked on top of each other, as you can see on the screen, and each perspective has a color band aligned with the strategic objective on the far right. Dr. Samuels was among those who developed this instrumental institutional strategy that has propelled DUT to unimaginable heights. I will now briefly take you through the strategy to show you how it aligns to the comprehensive internationalization that we are trying to achieve at DUT. The strategy is distilled into a one-page map based on a balanced scorecard concept. At the bottom, stewardship is a foundational perspective which emphasizes values such as transparency, mutual respect, compassion, and excellence. It also emphasizes driving creativity by bringing together diverse minds and global schools of thought. Systems and processes involves creating innovative curricula and research through internationalization. Sustainability's key goal is to provide distinctive education, including ensuring that every graduate at DUT has an international experience by 2030 to prepare them for the global stage. Society emphasizes DUT being an engaged university, which is deeply connected to local, national, regional, and global contexts. It aims to bridge these contexts, helping what we term local citizens understand the link between global and local knowledge. So the DUT's internationalization strategic framework supports the pursuit of inclusivity, mutuality, and diversity. And it also assists in the development and the pursuit of higher education, social justice through internationalization and decolonization. The internationalization efforts at DUT also contribute to the development of the adaptive graduates who can initiate and respond to change. Internationalization also contributes to the academics, as initiatives such as COIL serve as a vehicle for staff development. International virtual engagement at DUT aims to increase the perspective in the curriculum by taking local knowledge to the international stage, thereby creating plurality of knowledge where indigenous and local knowledge systems are valued and elevated to the global stage alongside traditional knowledge. And this is achieved through COIL, lecture series, and webinars with our global partners. International virtual engagement also increases access to the benefits of internationalization, and at DUT within the period of our strategy, we aim to have 100% of our students to have an international experience. Through the promotion of study abroad and exchange, we also hope to complement and supplement our international virtual engagement efforts. I will now set the stage or the context for why COIL is a useful tool for internationalization of the curriculum. Higher education is increasingly expected to produce globally competent graduates. However, traditional internationalization, especially student mobility, remains inaccessible to many, especially in Africa. This creates a need for inclusive, scalable alternatives that allow all students to benefit from global exposure. So COIL emerges as a powerful solution in this context. So what is COIL? COIL is a structured model within international virtual engagement focused on co-teaching. It involves lecturers from different institutions co-designing a shared learning experience where students collaborate across borders. It is important to note that COIL is structured, it is intentional, and it is outcomes driven, rather than it being an informal or an ad hoc online interaction. It's also important to state that COIL is not an add-on. It should be embedded directly into an existing module. A typical COIL project runs for 4 to 6 weeks, starting with an icebreaker in week 1, where students are also orientated into the COIL, and ending with reflections and evaluations. I must state that before the implementation phase of a COIL project, there is about 4 to 6 weeks of preparatory time that the lecturers will need to consider. An effective COIL initiative is built on a few key elements. The first one being that it is a joint curriculum design between partner academics. And this takes place in a negotiated space with mutual respect, where the facilitators create a structured plan while remaining flexible to adapt to emerging challenges within the design and implementation phases of the project. Secondly, there must be intentional intercultural engagement. So this is not just group work. The academics need to ensure that there is an element of intercultural exchange that takes place between the students. There must be guided reflection and assessment to ensure that meaningful learning would have occurred. Technology enables core processes and does not drive it. The focus must always be on meaningful learning design, with technology supporting, not leading the process. So therefore, core projects must be underpinned by clearly articulated learning outcomes, aligned with appropriate teaching strategies, assessment methods, and intercultural learning goals. Academics must first consider what students should learn, how they should engage, and only then select the technologies that best suit these objectives. COIL matters and should be encouraged because it supports what is often referred to as internationalization at home. It allows students who may never travel abroad to gain global exposure. It prepares students for a globalized workforce by developing intercultural communication skills. Students master collaborative digital tools while working across time zones. It also strengthens partnerships, not just at the institutional level, but at a teaching and learning level, which is often more sustainable. I'm now going to hand you over to my colleague Mandisa, who's going to take us through the COIL journey at DUT.
Thank you, Ms. Matthews. I'll just briefly touch on the DUT COIL journey. In Africa, COIL was initiated in 2013, and the first COIL project was implemented in 2016, and we've completed over 200 projects in the past year. COIL is formally embedded within DUT's internationalization strategic framework as a primary vehicle for internationalization of the curriculum and internationalization at home. The International Education and Partnership Directorate provides structured institutional support to academics through dedicated COIL coordinators, faculty engagement, workshop-based trainings, and practical implementation resources. So DUT currently maintains active COIL partnerships with institutions across more than 45 countries globally. Next slide, please, Ms. Matthews. So at present, our efforts are centered on building capacity, piloting new collaborations, and supporting academics in meaningfully integrating COIL into their modules. One of the most important lessons we have learned along the way is that staff development is absolutely critical to successful implementation. And without adequately preparing and supporting academics, it becomes very difficult to sustain high quality COIL experiences. With that in mind, our current virtual engagement focus includes several key priorities. We are working to increase the overall number of COIL projects, whilst also expanding the interdisciplinary collaborations, which we have found to be particularly impactful. In addition, we are encouraging multi-university COIL projects as these bring diverse perspectives into the learning experience. We are also increasing the lecture series and webinars as well to support engagements, as well as strengthening COIL focused research to deepen our understanding and inform best practices. Next slide, please. So I'll just touch on demystifying COIL. There are a few common misconceptions about COIL that are worth addressing. So COIL is not limited to academic institutions. It can add, and it often does involve partners from industry, government, and civil society, which enrich the learning experience and connect students to real-world contexts. COIL does not need to be fully synchronous. Projects can be synchronous, asynchronous, or just a blend of both, offering flexibility for institutions operating across different time zones. COIL also is very different from a traditional lecture. It's not just about passive content delivery, rather it requires active student engagement, collaboration, and interaction. Also, interdisciplinary projects are not only possible within COIL, they are often very highly effective as they mirror the complexity of real-world challenges. And next slide, please. I will delve into COIL and the GLOBUS project objectives. So COIL aligns very strongly with the objectives of the GLOBUS project, particularly in fostering collaboration and global engagement. So by working in diverse international teams, participants are exposed to multiple viewpoints, thus enhancing their ability to navigate complex real-world challenges. So this alignment supports the equitable global partnerships as COIL creates spaces where students from different regions contribute knowledge on equal footing, reflecting GLOBUS's focus on teamwork and shared decision-making. In this way, learning becomes reciprocal rather than hierarchical. Similarly, South to North collaborations is strengthened through COIL by intentionally connecting institutions from different geopolitical contexts. So GLOBUS's emphasis on global markets and competitive dynamics enables students to appreciate regional differences while co-developing strategies that are informed by both the Global South and the Global North perspectives. So the focus on sustainable internationalization is also advanced through this integration. Unlike traditional mobility-based models, COIL provides an accessible and scalable approach to international learning. So when paired with GLOBUS simulations, it ensures that global engagement is continuous, inclusive, and also embedded within the learning process rather than dependent on physical travel. So COIL supports the curriculum-based engagement by embedding GLOBUS activities directly into academic programs. This ensures that the international collaboration is not just an add-on, but it can be a structured, assessed component of the curriculum, promoting deeper learning outcomes and just long-term skills development. Next slide, please. In terms of the professional development, one of DUT's contributions to the GLOBUS projects is to facilitate professional development and training for COIL to support the institutions and academics within the project in adopting COIL. So there are 4 areas in the professional development, which are the basic principles of COIL, conceptual background of international virtual engagement and COIL, discussion on COIL as a pedagogy, and introduce COIL as a tool to create international academic linkages, collaborative projects, and partnerships. So we'll focus on focus area 1, which is the basic principles of COIL. This training is designed to be highly practical and collaborative, and it enables participants to begin developing their own COIL initiatives. So the professional development training will guide participants through the basic principles of COIL, and then you can view the 4 principles by scanning the QR code on the screen. So next slide, please, Ms. Matthews. So by the end of the professional development training, participants should be able to recognize the key terminology related to international virtual engagement, summarize the principles and characteristics of COIL, differentiate COIL from other forms of online or international education, explain the stages involved in designing and implementing a COIL project. So these outcomes are designed to build both conceptual understanding and the practical capacity, and it ensures that participants are well equipped to move forward with the implementation. Next slide, please. So with the proposed timelines, with these outcomes in mind, I'll just walk you through our proposed timelines for this project. Today marks the introduction to COIL. In May 2026, we'll begin the professional development for COIL training. And then from mid-2026 through to 2017, we'll focus on the implementation. And in 2017, we will evaluate and scale our efforts. So this phased approach allows for careful development, ongoing support, and just continuous evaluation. So colleagues, thank you for your attention, and we do welcome your questions.
Thank you, Mandisa. I'd also like to thank everyone, and I'd like to give the floor back to Anna.
Thank you so much, Pam and Mandisa, for this very detailed presentation. Now, actually, we have our first question in the chat, and it is as follows. What makes COIL significantly different from other collaborative e-learning platforms?
COIL is different in the sense that it is intentional in exposing the students to an intercultural experience, where with other virtual engagements, that element may not be enforced. So with COIL, We also focus on, or we try to encourage the academics to have real world problems be part of the learning outcomes of the COIL. So where the UN SDGs are also embedded as part of the outcomes of the core project.
Thank you, Pam.
Yes.
We still welcome other comments or questions in the chat. We have another one. Is the professional development open to everyone?
Within the GLOBUS partnership, it will only be open to the universities who are within the collaboration. However, if any institution wishes to undergo the professional development for COIL, they can contact the Durban University, or they can email myself should you require further information in terms of how to enroll for the training.
Thank you, Pam. Maybe after this Q&A, you could also leave your contact details again in the chat so that anyone interested could also contact you directly, if that's fine. We have another question here in the chat. What technological platform is used in COIL?
So as I had mentioned in the presentation, that the technology or the digital platform are only decided after the design of the core project. So between the partnering academics, they need to assess the digital platforms that are available between the countries, and then they need to then decide which one will be best to be used. So for synchronous delivery, which is the formal part of the COIL, this can be done through MS Teams. It can be done through Zoom, as well as Google Meet. Those are the platforms that the academics at DUT usually use. And then for asynchronous activities, where this is where the students work independent of the academics, you can use platforms such as Padlet. You can also use we've had students use WhatsApp. We've also had students use digital communication tools such as WeChat. So there is no definitive or restriction in terms of what digital tools to use. This is negotiated between the partnering academics.
Thank you, Pam. And before opening the floor for the question that we have here in the chat, Dr. Samuels has raised his hand. So, Dr. Samuels, do you want to comment on this topic?
Yes, thank you very much, Anna. I think Pam has given a very broad overview of the different platforms, but COIL is also a very creative space and a very spontaneous one. And we have found that even though a project is designed, after negotiation with certain platforms in mind, maybe Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas, some universities have Canvas and they sign on our students. Students actually give this a life of their own. We find that they develop closed Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups. Some of them use Snapchat and Instagram, some of the modalities that I'm not, a frequent user of. So it's a very, very creative space. and students find ways of communicating across time zones, across different disciplines as well. And I think even the low bandwidth options are available, because we know in Africa particularly there is the digital divide where bandwidth is limited. We have high costs of data, devices. So we have these low bandwidth options that can also be used. So there are certainly no limitations in terms of the platforms that can be used, and they are evolving all the time. And I'm pretty certain AI will also influence this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. Very inspiring also how students engage with COIL as well, with their own methods and creativity. We have another question here in the chat. How do you measure the impact of your COIL initiatives?
This can be done through student reflections. You can also design questionnaires for your students at the end. Research can also be done after the core, where you can analyze using certain theories the impact of your COIL project. But I think the best indication of the impact that a COIL project would have produced is through the engagement with your students, as well as your partner from the other institution.
Thank you. How about, would you have any advice, Pam or team, for institutions that are currently not implementing COIL?
My advice would be for the institutions to consider using COIL. But I do know that with some institutions, it may be difficult, as there may not be substantial support for initiatives such as COIL. But what I will say is that it takes one individual to influence the rest of the group. So I think even though there may be challenges within the institution, COIL has proven to be an impactful tool to transform students' perspective, to develop students' communication skills, and also just to expose the student beyond their immediate lens. So I would encourage people who have not thought of international virtual engagement to be a tool that could transform their classroom, to take it upon themselves to learn more about it and actually implement it.
Thank you so much. We have one more question here in the chat, and is very relevant. What factors do you consider when selecting courses for COIL?
As we've mentioned in the presentation, that COIL projects do not have to be within the same discipline. So what matters in a COIL project is that there is a complement between learning outcomes between the modules or the programs that will be implementing the COIL project. So maybe to give a a more concrete answer, I'll say the factors would be the themes. So within your module, you will need to look at your learning outcomes, identify learning outcomes that could lend themselves to a core project. And then based on the theme of your learning outcomes, that's how you will then identify a module that will complement your module. But as I've mentioned, that the best core projects are ones that are interdisciplinary or intradisciplinary, because it allows for different perspectives to be highlighted, and it also gives the students different views to the same problems or the same tasks that they may be doing within their core project.
Thank you so much, Pam and Tim, for this presentation and answering the questions. Will we have any other comment or question here in the chat? Yes, we have now. One, in terms of sustainability, how do you intend to sustain the COIL-based courses beyond the project period and between the networks? I think this question can be also referred by any other member of the project. Yes, Dr. Samuels, please.
Thank you. So we've been able to build sustainability in our COIL projects for 12 years. And one of the ways we do it is by having a very grounded, lean, and frugal approach. COIL should not depend on huge resource investments. If you are looking at funding to sustain COIL, then it's the wrong approach. You have to look at how you can sustain it with as little as possible. So that is how it differs from a mobility that requires high investments in that activity. Secondly, it's about repeating projects. So if one project is given in a particular year, that academic should do that project again, fine-tune it, improve on it, identify the changes that have occurred, and actually take it to new levels of excellence. Thirdly, it's about bringing in new COILers, using your COIL champions to motivate others to get involved in COIL and to build that COIL repertoire at your university. And then I think fourthly, it's about building COIL into your institutional strategy and policies so that COIL is never seen as an add-on, but the support for COIL actually comes from both the top and the bottom and meets in between with impact. So I think those are some of the ways that we have been able to do it. In terms of this project, these are all universities that we will continue to work with within SANORD, and UniPID will continue with its activities. And I think the fact that this project is grounded in two very stable organizations allows us not just to sustain it, but perhaps scale it up into something bigger. This project started as a conversation between Kaiser and I 2 years ago at the SANORD conference in Norway. And it was always meant to be something that could be sustained within the networks, but also expanded to include other members. So that would be my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Samuels. Kaisa, please. Did you want to approach also this question?
Sure, thank you so much, Anna. And I think Dr. Samuels already responded very extensively, highlighting actually all the relevant aspects. And this is indeed what I also feel about this project and its sustainability, is that we are building something here that is able to sustain itself by the so to say, the building blocks that we have already established, and also with this project we build further building blocks for it to sustain in the future. So by bringing in the advocacy of the COIL ambassadors, then these experiences of the courses and COIL modules to be implemented, and then also keeping up the conversations also at institutional and network level to bring on board new enthusiasts who can advocate further for COIL within their institutions, and also individual teachers and academics to then implement further COIL in their respective courses and collaborations. So I think that is really the way forward, and as already responded by Dr. Samuels.
Thank you so much, Kaisa. Are there any additional comments or questions for the topic? Okay, so Pam has kindly shared her contact information in the chat, and I pinned this message for anyone interested or who would require any additional information. Please feel free to contact the youth team, and I'm sure that they will be also glad to address your questions. So maybe now we can start moving towards the closing remarks for the event. And for this part, we have warmly invited two speakers to share brief closing remarks on behalf of both the Southern African and Finnish partners. So with this in mind, I am honored to give the floor to Dr. Laverne Samuels, Director of International Education and Partnerships at the Durban University of Technology and a global leader in the field of internationalization of higher education. Please, Dr. Samuels.
Thank you very much, Anna. Firstly, I'd like to say how delighted I am to be at this launch of a project that we have been shaping for a number of years. It is truly a pleasure to be in a collaboration between two such esteemed networks, SANORD and UniPID. I think the fact that this project is anchored in these two established networks makes it really solid in terms of how it is going to be implemented. UniPID has a long history of being involved with a group of Finnish universities, and SANORD, of course, is a North-South, South-South collaboration involving Southern Africa and the 5 Nordic countries. It's an organization that is particularly close to my heart, and one that I chaired for 3 years until the end of 2025. So I'm really happy to be continuing my engagement through this project. I think the role of COIL and using the virtual space and for collaboration between these 4 Southern African universities and 4 Finnish universities is more important than ever, given the geopolitical shifts of the day, the conflicts and contestation that happens. And I think in many ways, universities play a very unique role as a global commons of scholars and scholarship at a time when perhaps governments are not being able to do this in the way that they have in the past. And I think the role of universities through projects that involve COIL and other forms of collaboration